I lost 50 pounds in 4 months without starving myself or wasting hours on the treadmill. And today I'm going to reveal the 4 daily habits that made it 10 times easier. There's not going to be any fluff or fancy editing, but if you stick around to the end of the video, you're going to walk away with a simple checklist you can follow to start losing fat this week. So full screen the video and let's lock in. I expect you know you need to create a calorie deficit to lose body fat. But do you know the easiest way to stick to your deficit? Because the problem is the calorie deficit has become just another diet. But that's because a lot of people are doing it completely wrong. They're either starving themselves on as few calories as possible because they think a bigger deficit will equal faster fat loss, or they're following an if it fits your macros approach and eating garbage every day. But starving yourself will crash your metabolism and put you into starvation mode. That will stall fat loss, not speed it up. And filling your diet with processed junk, even if it does fit your macros, will make fat loss 10 times harder because this food spikes your hunger hormones and increases your cravings. That's why I recommend you use something called the 80-20 rule, where you eat 80% of your food from whole, nutrient-dense, unprocessed foods, but still leave room for 20% of your calories to come from the sweet treats and the snacks that you love and look forward to. This avoids the all or nothing approach. It removes restriction, and by its very nature, it makes the calorie deficit not like other diets, because that literally is the definition of a diet. You're enforcing restriction on yourself, whether that's the time of day that you eat, the number of meals that you eat, or whether you cut out an entire food group. But if you follow a calorie deficit and use the 80-20 rule, you're completely removing the restriction. And this is really important when it comes to human psychology, because we, unfortunately, are driven by desire. And if someone tells us that we can't have something, we naturally want it more. And sure, you could argue that if you impose some restriction on yourself, you might lose fat faster. But that's a very short-termist view. Yes, you could lose more weight in the first 2 weeks, but what about the first 6 months or the first year? When I'm working with my clients, I'm helping them build a system that means they're never going to have to go on a diet ever again. We're looking for something called the minimum effective dose, where they have to put the minimum amount of effort to get the maximum reward. You don't really want to look at your fat loss phase as a 2-week or a 4-week thing, because if you have 10, 20, or even 50 pounds to lose, it's going to take a lot longer than that. There are 3,500 calories in 1 pound of fat. So if you're in a 500 calorie deficit every day for a week, you're going to lose 1 pound. That means if you have 10 pounds to lose, it's going to take you about 10 weeks. But even once you've lost those 10 pounds, you don't want to then regain them by removing the restriction that you put on yourself to lose those 10 pounds in the first place. So essentially what I'm saying is you don't want to restrict yourself. And this is why ultimately diets don't work. 95% of men who go on a diet not only end up failing and regaining the weight, but they actually end up putting more weight on. And the truth is, most people don't actually need to focus on eating less. They need to focus on eating better. The easiest way to do this is to look at the labels, look at the packages of the food that you are buying. And the fewer ingredients that are on those labels, the better. You want to be designing your meals around protein, fiber, and complex carbs like rice and potato. Visualize your plate. Have half of it as veg, a quarter as carbs, and the last quarter as protein. And the other thing that you can do here that really helps is remove decision fatigue by eating the same things. I'm not saying to eat the same meal every single day, but if you stick to the same 1 to 2 breakfast options and then rotate 3 or 4 meals for your lunch and dinner, you're going to find this whole process a heck of a lot easier. And it means when it comes to tracking your food, you're not going to have to be constantly going through MyFitnessPal finding new things. You've got your presets, you just enter them in, and you're good to go. And also, if you're eating the same things after a couple of weeks, you're not going to need to track anyway. But anyway, back to the 80-20 rule. So that stuff, the protein, the fiber, the complex carbs, that's going to make up 80% of our calories. The other 20% is for you to decide, whether that's the odd beer, a pizza on a Saturday night, a few squares of dark chocolate every single day, which is what I do. It doesn't matter. It's completely up to you. And that 20% is what makes this 80% sustainable, because it's not about perfection. It's about progress. Think about it this way. Imagine every single day you have the opportunity to take 10 steps forward. And if you're eating 80% of your calories from clean food, let's say you're taking 8 steps forward, but then you're taking 2 steps back, which means overall every single day you're taking 6 steps forward. Whereas if you were to eat clean 100% of the time for 5 days in a week, but then have a 5,000 calorie binge on a Saturday night, you're just going to end up taking 3 steps backward every single week. It's going to demoralize you. And within a month or two, you're just going to give up. So that was the first habit. The second habit is so simple that once I tell you what it is, you're probably going to roll your eyes. But by the time I'm done explaining how powerful it is, my hope is that you're never going to look at it the same way again. We've just talked about how most people would do better cleaning up their diet rather than focusing on eating less. But we haven't actually talked about the best way to do that. Yes, of course, you can focus on your protein, focus on your fiber, focus on your complex carbs, all the stuff we just talked about. But the best thing you can do, the most underrated part of your nutrition, is actually a very special drink. A drink that is so powerful, it can clear your brain fog, boost your energy, and completely eradicate your cravings. Now, most things that sound too good to be true usually are, but this is a rare exception. So what's this mystical drink? Well, it's water. I expect you are probably rolling your eyes, but do you want to hear something crazy? When I surveyed my clients at the end of last year, I asked them what the one biggest takeaway from my coaching program had been. And do you know that 50% of them said it was simply drinking more water? Not the workouts, not the recipes. And that's because drinking water is more powerful than you probably even realize. First and foremost, every single cell in your body, all 37.2 trillion, yes, that is trillion with a T, of your cells require water to function correctly. Water also helps to stabilize your energy levels and keep your mind sharp. And it keeps you feeling fuller for longer by reducing your cravings. Think of it like this. The calories that you eat are like the petrol that you put in your car to get it started. But the water that you drink is like the oil you put in your car to stop it from breaking down. The vast majority of you are chronically dehydrated, and that's a big problem because dehydration affects your energy levels, your mental clarity, and even your ability to stick to your calories. But what most people don't realize is just how sensitive our brains are to dehydration. In fact, you only need to be 1 to 2% dehydrated for your brain to start switching off processes in your body. And when that happens, you start to feel lethargic. And you know how that goes. Suddenly the idea of sitting in your pants on your sofa watching Netflix for 8 hours straight feels very appealing, doesn't it? At the end of the day, when you're dehydrated, you get less done. And when you get less done, you burn fewer calories. And you just feel worse about yourself, don't you? In contrast to that, if you keep yourself hydrated, you're going to have all day energy, mental focus, and my favorite, drive. Drive to do hard things, drive to progress, drive to challenge yourself, drive to get up and move. The idea of sitting on your sofa watching Netflix is going to feel grotesque to you because that's what lazy people do. That is what lethargic people do. And if that isn't enough motivation for you to drink more water, let me tell you another sneaky benefit that you'll get. You see, when you drink water, it physically fills your stomach. And when your stomach is full, the walls expand. That sets off a trigger, which then sends a signal all the way up to your brain, telling it that you are full. As a result, it brings your hunger hormone called ghrelin back down into balance with your other hunger hormone called leptin and reduces your need and want to eat. So on top of giving you more energy and more mental clarity, it's even going to be that powerful that it kills your hunger levels and cravings. So your next question might be, how much water should I be drinking then? Well, truth be told, when most people ask, I just say more, because I know that the vast majority of people just aren't drinking enough. But if you can aim for 3 liters a day, you'll be doing yourself a big favor. And drinking that much water really isn't tough if you follow these simple steps. Start your day with 500 milliliters of water and put some electrolytes in. But then throughout the day, carry a bottle of water with you at all times. Mine is down here. Set yourself some goals. So by 10 a.m., you might have drunk your first liter. By 2 p.m., maybe you're on 2. And by 6 p.m., maybe you have done 3. Use a habit tracking app or an alarm on your phone to remind you. Get into the habit of drinking a glass of water before every meal and replace any juices or sodas with low calorie or 0 calorie options and squashes. And the best test, look at your pee. If it's yellow, you're dehydrated. But fat loss isn't just about eating less. You see, energy balance works on a seesaw. You have calories in and you have calories out. We've talked about the best strategies and habits to manage your calories in. Now let's talk about the best habit that helps you burn more calories without even having to try. You might think that burning fat means pounding the treadmill 5 times a week or suffering through 2-hour grueling workouts. But neither of those are true. Because think about it. Even if you were to work out 7 days a week for 2 hours at a time, you'd still only be spending 8% of your time in the gym. The fact is, the lifestyle that you live outside of the gym is far more important. This is a former client of mine, Paul. He is a man in his early 40s. He has a very busy job, 2 kids, and a wife. But he managed to lose 30 pounds in just 12 weeks on my coaching program. Of course, he was in a calorie deficit, and yeah, he was working out from home 2 to 3 times a week. But he didn't set foot in a gym once. What really moved the needle for him and helped him lose so much weight in such a short space of time was walking. You see, Paul is a keen golfer. He realized that he could pair what he loved with his fitness goal. So instead of taking a golf buggy, he would now regularly hit 18,000 steps a day. But here's the thing, don't worry, you don't have to be a keen golfer, and you certainly don't have to walk 18,000 steps a day. Paul's an outlier, but he's a great example of what you can achieve when you focus on your step count. Walking is such an underrated exercise. If you can even call it an exercise, it's a real game changer. Not only is it a game changer, but it's a high leverage activity because of all the benefits you get downstream of it. Here is the problem though. The average Brit and American is only walking 3,500 steps a day. But the good news is that if you reframe this, you can actually walk 1,000 steps every 8 minutes. That means if you walk an hour a day, or 64 minutes if you really want to be precise, you'll hit 8,000 steps a day. Not only is that more than double what the average man is doing, but it means that you'll burn an additional 300 to 400 calories every single day. Now, here is where it gets really cool. Remember what I said earlier, there's 3,500 calories in 1 pound of fat. So even if we're being conservative and we say that you burn 300 additional calories every day just from walking, that means that over the course of a year, you're going to burn 31 pounds of fat just from walking. But it gets even better because walking doesn't just help you with fat loss. In fact, I think my favorite thing about walking is the powerful effect that it has on your mind. And that's because it activates something called your parasympathetic nervous system, which is the part of your autonomic nervous system, which is linked with rest and digestion. It has literally been proven to lower your cortisol, which is your stress hormone. Think about it. Have you ever wondered why you suddenly feel less stressed or more creative when you've gone out on a walk? That's your parasympathetic nervous system kicking in, changing your environment, getting outside, getting some fresh air. You don't see it on the outside, but it's making a real difference on the inside. Use it as an opportunity to listen to an audiobook or a podcast or a playlist. Phone your friend, phone your mum, get your kids outside. Switch your Zoom calls for work calls because trust me, it's been 5 years and everybody's sick of Zoom. And here's the thing, not all of your walking has to be purposeful. You'll do 2,000 steps a day just existing, which is even more frightening when I've just told you that the average is 3,500, because it means that the average man is on his feet for just 45 minutes a day, which, let's be real, is pretty pathetic, guys. So whether it's commuting to work, walking around the house, grocery shopping, or playing with the kids, just make sure they're your kids. And it means that all you need to do is consciously think about walking 6,000 steps a day. That's a 45-minute walk at the start of the day to wake you up, or a 45-minute walk at the end of the day to relax and de-stress. And if you have an iPhone, your health app is already tracking your steps. If you don't have an iPhone, I mean, we've got bigger problems, but that's another video. But I'm sure you can just download a free pedometer app from the Google Play Store. And then last but not least, the fourth daily habit that made it 10 times easier for me to lose 50 pounds in just 4 months was going to bed on time. Because let's be honest, bad things happen at night. Whether it's drinking alcohol or binge eating, you can get in a lot of trouble after dark. What did Ed Sheeran say? Nothing good happens after 2. Well, call me boring, but I'd say nothing good happens after 10. Not only is boozing and binging going to put you over on your daily calories, but it's going to have such a negative impact on how you feel the next day. Not just on your energy levels, but on your drive, on your willpower, and most important, on your hunger hormones. Because you can have the best will in the world, but if your ghrelin, which we talked about earlier, is your hunger hormone, if that's high, and your leptin, we talked about that one earlier as well, that's your satiety hormone, is low, you turn into a ticking time bomb. You feel hungry all the time, and your cravings for high calorie, sweets, fatty foods goes through the roof. But it gets worse because not only are you now craving more junk food, but you're not going to have the drive or the energy to move, which means you're likely to eat more calories and burn fewer. Not only is that going to take you out of a deficit, but it's probably going to put you into a surplus. Now you've gone from losing fat to gaining fat. And truth be told, I felt this myself just yesterday. I'm recording this on Friday, the 20th of June. And right now here in the UK, we're having a little bit of a heat wave. And you know what it's like when you're in a heat wave and there's no AC, because if you guys are in America, we don't have AC in the UK. It means your sleep is going to be affected. So everybody by now, we're on like day 3 or 4, is walking around like a zombie, running on 4 to 6 hours of sleep. Now we know it's going to pass, so we don't like cry about it. We just get on with it. But I found myself walking around the supermarket, around the grocery store yesterday, craving foods that I haven't even thought about for months or even years. Stuff I used to have as a kid at my grandmother's. And it made it so much harder. I had to really put the blinders on and just get in and get out as fast as possible to stop me picking up the stuff at the end of the shelves. So if you're walking around underslept 7 days of the week, it's impossible. Going to bed on time solves all of this. It gives you more energy, fewer cravings, and you just end up making better decisions. And when you're making better decisions, it means your diet, your workouts, your willpower, it's all just going to work for you rather than against you. And to do this, all you have to do is set a bedtime alarm. This isn't necessarily the time that you actually want to fall asleep. This is the time that you want to start winding down. And that alarm just helps to form the habit. So what you want to do is work backwards from the time that you want to wake up tomorrow, the next day. Let's say you want to wake up at 7 a.m. We want you to be spending 8 hours in bed, assuming that 7 of those you're going to be asleep, which means that I'd want to be asleep or getting into bed, let's say, at 11. So I would probably set my bedtime alarm for 10 p.m. or even 9:30. That gives me 60 to 90 minutes to wind down, and it means I'm going to fall asleep faster and I'm going to sleep better. Then the best part is you're not going to even need an alarm to wake up. And if you wake up at 7, you're going to have time for a workout or a walk before work. Anyway, those are the 4 biggest habits that gave me the best bang for my buck. But let's be honest, they are just the tip of the iceberg. If you want the full system, then click the link in the description under this video to see how I can help you get under 15% body fat and finally ditch your dad bod for good, all without cutting out carbs or wasting hours on the treadmill. Or you can watch this video next and I'll show you why you're not losing fat from the areas that you want to.